Hello and welcome to Unquestionably Nerdy, the show where we talk about everything that makes us want to geek out, freak out, and watch your gosh darn language. I am one of your hosts, Cadam MacArthur, and whom am I joined by?
Someone who cannot control their French, the most colorful language of all, Cole Browning.
All right, Cole, speak French.
Well, fuck. You.
That's almost as good of French as Batroc the Leaper, the first French character to come to mind in the MCU. Seamless transition.
Cool. Where the hell in the MCU does this guy show up?
Well, I guess he's Algerian, but he's in Captain America Winter Soldier in the wider Phase 2, which of course brings us to today's topic of today's episode, Cole Browning, is we're gonna continue on our loving journey, only loving journey into the exploration of the phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that we have gone through so far in preparation for Avengers, I almost said Secret Wars, Doomsday, coming out at the end of this year. We'll get Secret Wars later. Maybe we'll use that time to go over the shows.
That would be a good use. There's so many shows now.
So many shows. I've been rewatching Daredevil, the 3 seasons that came out on Netflix. Not in preparation for this episode, but I've just been watching those 3 seasons. And I do think that first season of Daredevil is unrelated to the rest of this episode. I do think Daredevil Season 1 is the best thing to come out of Phase 2.
I don't even think you could consider Daredevil Phase 1 a part of Phase 2. I just really don't think you can.
There's an argument to be made for that.
I feel like you have to take all of the Marvel shows separately.
Yes, especially breaking them up between the Netflix originals and the Disney Plus shows. But that's a discussion for another time. Cole, I suppose before we get into the specific movies, do you have any opening thoughts on your reactions to Phase 2, either during your time seeing them in theaters or in more recent memory?
Phase 2 has some bumps in the road. That's what I remember. Out of the big 3 franchises, I can honestly say that each of them took a big hit in descent, except for Captain America.
Okay.
I think up to the end of Phase 2, the greatest Marvel film of that time to have come out is in Phase 2. And I do think that's Captain America Winter Soldier.
That is not a bad pick. Whenever I do think back to Phase 2, obviously the mind immediately goes to Ultron, not as the best, but as the picture of it, because it's, it's the Avengers movie of that phase. But yeah, Civil War, Winter Soldier is, I suppose we'll get to our rankings of the Phase 2 movies at the end of it like we did last time, but yes, fucking Winter Soldier, it's so good.
It is just a spy movie with superheroes. It's great.
It's a spy movie. It's a government intrigue movie. It's wonderful.
Yeah, but I will say, just kind of my final thoughts as we go further into detail, I think that the Iron Man movie in this phase, the Thor movie in this phase, and the Avengers movie in this phase are all weaker films than their predecessor.
All right. Well, let's get into it with the first movie of Phase 2 following Avengers ending Phase 1 is, of course, Iron Man 3. We open in the same way, in the same manner, with the same character that we opened with in Iron Man 1. We begin, of course, in the flashback with the sort of pseudo-reset of Tony's character, however momentary it is, with the flashback giving us more of a picture of who he was before, getting trapped in the cave and in Afghanistan, and then we transition back to the present day where we see he is immediately, or has been for some time, jumping into filling all of his time making new suits. He's up to Mark 42, which is the one we see him most recently working on, or most presently working on. And to that end, you can tell me what you think about this. To me, Iron Man 3, story-wise, is so heavily about survival. The reason that Tony is building these suits is like out of a coping mechanism for the PTSD he's suffering. There's a lot of exploration of PTSD, and even like in a wider sense away from Tony in this movie, there's a lots of exploration of how veterans are treated when they get home, with how we see Tony going home after the Battle of New York, and we see lots of the extremist soldiers are, veterans that have been battle scarred and lost limbs and whatnot, and are being brought into the extremist program in order to rebuild themselves. And obviously for Tony's personal story, there's so much around his PTSD, which upon rewatching this movie, I think is good representation and good display of how people are treated in that way when they come home from saving the world. One bad thing I'll say about one lower point of the story that I'll point out in Tony's personal story is that I feel like Tony's PTSD sort of subplot or character plot isn't really effectively solved. Like we see him at the start and he's distracting himself from his PTSD by building suits, and then he has that moment with Harley where he's having a panic attack and Harley's just like, build more stuff. You're a builder, right? Build more stuff. You're a mechanic. And that like flips a switch in Tony somehow, even though what he's been doing to distract himself this whole time is building stuff, right?
I mean, I will say it's not resolved.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is one of those MCU movies where I would take the rating of I can rewatch it if I really want to, but alcohol is required. Thank you, Jeremy Johns. If you guys haven't seen his reviews on YouTube, very good rating system.
Yeah, classic.
But yeah, this just overall is not a movie I like to watch. One of the redeeming qualities, I think, though, is Tony's PTSD kind of subplot. I honestly think the main plot with Tony versus Extremis is just god awful. Maybe it's the fact that Guy Pearce was chosen to be the villain in this movie. I don't really know. It could be other things of why is Extremis even worth a movie. But
yeah,
I think that however unresolved Tony's subplot is, it is still the highlight of the movie.
Sure.
Now, do I have problems with a weird Tennessee child giving him, advice on how to solve his own problems? Yes, I have an issue with a Tennessee child giving him...
You don't like Harley?
That advice. I don't like Harley.
Okay.
That felt so out of it for the movie. Like, it felt like the movie just said vibe check in the middle and said, oof, switch it up. And then just crash landed us in the middle of like Christmastown, Tennessee or something.
Yeah, it does kind of bring the Extremis story to a halt that they almost kind of have to like fight to keep relevance when the Extremis soldiers come to Harley's town, which, what a fucking piece of luck for Tony, or good or bad luck for Tony, that the one random Tennessee town he crashes into is just so happens to be where the Extremis soldiers are conducting their plot.
It is absolutely so random. I look back on it and I'm like, this is the most MacGuffin that has ever MacGuffined in a Marvel movie so far.
No, I guess it's not random because Tony was like planning to look into it because that was where the first bombing was. So I guess it's not totally random.
Not totally, but I mean, looking back on it,
the vibe of it is really different.
Yeah, I was looking back on the Harley and Tony thing wasn't terrible. I feel like it just kind of came as part of the vibe check, which is the first part of the movie just absolutely failed. Let's see if throwing a kid in it works. And it's like, it could have worked if the rest of the movie was good.
Sure. And I think the actor for Harley, I forget the actor's name, but I think the actor for Harley is overall good. He gives a perfectly good performance and he's got some funny moments, but it just like, it would make so much more sense if to work through his PTSD, Tony went to, I don't know, his active military friend Rhodey, who we later see as more of a military representative in the MCU.
Rhodey ain't got shit for PTSD.
You don't think so? Well, no, Rhodey doesn't have PTSD, but it's like we will see later in Winter Soldier how Sam tries to help veterans get back into their daily lives, and Tony is like so connected with Rhodey, who is an active military personnel. Surely it would have made it just could have been, it could have made more sense for Tony to go to Rhodey, or Rhodey be that helping hand in figuring out how to get through his PTSD with Rhodey.
You know what's something that also could have worked out? Talking to his fucking girlfriend.
Probably could have helped.
I was gonna say we could have had more Pepper in this movie, in terms of like a more dramatic scenery of Tony is just absolutely fearful of doing alien invasion shit again because of him almost dying and basically falling out of a portal into the sky. And yeah, like, why didn't you just have more scenes like you will later do in like your little lake house cabin in Infinity War, which we'll get to in a minute. Yeah, but like once we get there and you had that just 5-minute conversation, maybe even less with Pepper, why couldn't there have been like 2 or 3 of those in this movie?
Yeah, I guess this is kind of the Iron Man movie where Pepper gets the least amount to do, where in the first one she's like very active in like going after Obadiah, so like she's like tackling the villain head on with those shield agents, and then in Iron Man 2 she gets to become the CEO of Stark Enterprises and she's active in that way. In this one she's just like very support to Tony, not much of an independent character on her own.
I mean, in this one she gets the fact that she becomes rescue
very briefly
in the end. And there you're like, okay, cool, but also, fuck this. This feels so undeserved as a moment. Like, just fuck all of this. I would say you can make Gwyneth Paltrow cool without giving her the armor. And I'm like, she killed the villain of the first movie without the armor.
She did.
So she is
Gwyneth Paltrow doesn't know what's going on in these movies.
But like Pepper Potts as a character is just so much better than that.
Sure. Well, you know who else is surprisingly enough, a supporting act to another character unnecessarily, is the fucking Mandarin.
The Mandarin is probably, other than Guy Pearce, the worst part of that movie. However, for the life of me, I cannot say that he is the worst part in general and that role is overrated. Ben Kingsley, it was a crime to ever have given you the story that they did in Iron Man 3 and then let you sit on that for 10 years. I'm telling you this right now. Coming back in Shang-Chi and then in Wonder Man, Jesus Christ, sir, they screwed you out of an Emmy or like the guest actor role in like an Oscar if there's like a limited screen appearance. Your role was so far redeemed with 2 good projects. I'm sorry they had to make you sit on this shit one for 10 years.
Okay, so you prefer him as Trevor in Shang-Chi and Wonder Man.
Oh, his role in Wonder Man is probably one of the best Ben Kingsley things I've seen. I would say Trevor's fucking amazing in Wonder Man. I will not sing that show's praises loud enough.
Good to know. We'll have to circle back to that when we talk about the shows.
And then, him and Shang-Chi, also great. The Mandarin, if you tell us we're getting the Mandarin, especially because if you haven't listened to the last episode, the best Iron Man movie ever made is an animated one released in 2005, where it's actually Iron Man going after the rings that make the Mandarin powerful. So we'd already gotten a great Mandarin, and then they bring us fucking Trevor.
Yeah, there would have been room for Ben Kingsley to give a great Mandarin performance, because Ben Kingsley as Trevor as the Mandarin is giving a great Mandarin performance. He's intimidating in Mandarin mode, and maybe the reveal in this movie would have been funny if it wasn't so disappointing. And going back to Aldrich Killian to Guy Pearce, there's somewhere they could have gone with it that they didn't really reach, where like Killian is this war profiteer who's manufacturing a war so that he can profit off of both sides, and like he is the front man of this enterprise using this ethnic stereotype of the Mandarin, which is what the Mandarin is in the comics. He's a fucking ethnic stereotype for that purpose of war profiteering. And that maybe could have worked if you played more into the idea of surviving conflict and PTSD and surviving veterans and stuff like that. Maybe that could have worked better if they went more into it. And maybe that switch up with the Mandarin could have worked better if Killian was as interesting of a character, or Guy Pearce was giving as interesting of a performance as Ben Kingsley's Mandarin, but he just isn't.
There were so many just comic cockblocks in this movie.
Yeah.
For one, Aldrich Killian's company, I think that he mentions in the prologue or like the New Year's flashback or something.
Mm-hmm.
His company is AIM. The company with like the Marty McFly, Darth Vader version scientists creating evil weaponry and like wearing yellow hazmat suits and shooting laser guns.
Yeah.
Did we see any of that in this movie? No. Guess who's a part of that main company and like the smart scientist behind all their technology? MODOK.
It's MODOK, right?
We get him in Quantumania. Do we get him here when AIM is mentioned? No.
Do we really get him in Quantumania though?
No, I really don't. I really don't want to count it because it's not MODOK. See, people we'll get MODOK in Winter Soldier.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, we get MODOK in Winter Soldier, but then we get another live action form of MODOK in Quantumania. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
But yeah, either way, we get basically cockblocked from MODOK, from the true Mandarin, from seeing AIM in their yellow hazmat suit glory.
Exactly.
And we just get left with Guy Pearce. I'm like, you literally had, without the character of Aldrich Killian, you literally had evil group in MODOK and the Mandarin. I was going to say, Trevor would have been fine. I would have been mad, but respected the subversion, like I don't in The Last Jedi, but I would have respected it here. If MODOK was the true villain, if we had gotten MODOK as the true villain and basically said, yeah, I created this fake Mandarin, holy shit, big brain move, like that entire big head nobody that you have.
Yeah. I could see where you're going with that.
But they didn't.
Yeah.
They gave us Guy Pearce.
Yeah, true. Well, before we finish off with Iron Man 3, just a few ending notes. Why the fuck is the Mark 42 so breakable? Why is it just the worst suit? A fucking truck hits it and breaks it apart.
Cad, the meaning of life is that we're all broken, like that suit. Number 42.
I thought the meaning to life was 24.
No, it's 42. How dare you?
I have not seen Hitchhiker's Guide.
You read Hitchhiker. Don't watch the movie before you read it. Just read the book.
All right. I'll add that to the list. But also, another note, my friend Brooke is the nurse in Happy's hospital room. So, hi, Brooke.
Really? I was going to say,
yeah.
Go Brooke. Fantastic job.
Yeah, this is still in the era when so many Marvel movies were filmed in and around Atlanta, up in Trilith. So, yeah, my friend Brooke was the actress playing the nurse in Happy's hospital.
Hell yeah.
Another point. Yeah, hell yeah. Another point, a common complaint of this movie is as it falls in with the rest of the MCU movies after this, is that Tony gets rid of all of his suits to show dedication to Pepper, but then in the very next Avengers movie, he's got all of his suits back, no problem. But watching it now, it's less of I'm going to stop being Iron Man and more of I'm going to have more of a healthy Iron Man life balance. Like we see in that conversation with Pepper that he says he'll cut back or shave off on the distractions. Not that he's going to give it up entirely.
Okay, so hold on.
Go on.
So we were saying that it was bad because it kind of left this unresolved sense of his coping with his PTSD and that he's just going to find another way and stop using engineering everything to fix it. So I think we were both wrong because I kind of forgot about that. It's not that his PTSD arc was unresolved. It's that the resolution was fucking awful, given that we have Age of Ultron coming up. Like it would have been better if, you know, his resolution was actually one he stuck to.
Yeah. The ending of the portrayal of Tony's PTSD and his survival mindset after the first Avengers movie really carries him over into Age of Ultron, because like he's after the first Avengers, when he goes through the wormhole, he sees the larger scale threat of the Chitauri and all the aliens coming to attack Earth. And then that gives him the PTSD during this movie, and that unsafe mindset feeds so directly into Ultron and needing to put that suit of armor around the world. So, like, yeah, it's such a character subplot that goes so unresolved in this movie. Like, this movie only has it to explore, but it's not the start or the finish of that journey for Tony.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the ending it gives us of, I'm going to cut back from building all these Iron Man armors, but I'm going to move on to building other stuff.
Yeah.
It's just a fucking...
I want to build a bigger armor, one that can bust a Hulk.
It's just a fucking awful resolution. Like, it isn't even a resolution. Like, I wouldn't...
Really not.
I would rather have said, you know... I would have rather have had anything. I think the best one would have just been saying, I think I've proven that nobody else can be responsible with these Iron Man armors, and basically gone through these fail-safes of, I need to create something that is better than humans to regulate my technology. And like
right.
Him have kind of lost trust in other people to be Iron Man. And then that leads to him ultimately fucking up in Age of Ultron. That would have been a better ending. And we could have hated Tony for coming to that conclusion, but it would have made more sense.
Yeah. There's a lot of like surface level Tony leaving the past behind, which brings me to my last point of, does Tony make a necklace for Pepper made out of the shrapnel that was in his chest because he gets it dug out in that sort of closing scenes? That shrapnel that he got pulled out of his chest, the shrapnel that was blown into his heart or near his heart in Afghanistan, the shrapnel that has been in his body for several years now. It's very romantic, I guess.
I mean, that is super romantic. That is like the most... I won't say it's the most Tony Stark thing. I feel like it's the most Robert Downey Jr. thing that Tony Stark could do.
Need to ask RDJ's wife what kind of jewelry he gets her.
And if any of it has shrapnel.
Mm-hmm. But unless you have any other thoughts on Iron Man 2, I think we can move on. Iron Man 3, I think we can move on to Thor: The Dark World.
Disappointing final movie for the trilogy. Given that Thor, we all know, has more than 3 movies, and even the Captain America franchise without Chris Evans, it would have been nice to have gotten a better Iron Man 4. Or just an Iron Man 4 in general, to have gone out on a higher note.
Yeah. We've got Ironheart, so there's room to pass on the torch in some way.
We're not going to end up counting that.
Yeah, we'll see what the future holds. But, fair approximation. But, Thor: The Dark World. This, for so long, was everybody's, like, first choice as to what's the worst movie in the MCU. For so long, it was Thor: The Dark World.
This is not even the worst Thor movie.
See, we hold that opinion, but our reason for that opinion lies in Phase 3.
That is true. We will talk all of the shit possible on Thor Ragnarok when we get to it, but for now, we're going to defend Thor: The Dark World.
I think there is stuff to defend in here. It's by no means nowhere near my favorite movie. Like, I'm pretty sure rewatching this movie for this podcast episode is like the most... It may be the last time I watched Thor 2 outside of when I saw it in theaters, honestly. And like it like goes to show like how many people rewatch Thor 2. I know you have more positive feelings on it than most, but when I rewatched it this time, like as I was rewatching Phase 2 for this podcast, I could pick out so many points of like what each movie is about. Thor 2 to me, isn't really about anything. Like, there's some elements of Thor realizing that he's not ready to be king, but there's almost like nothing to support that. The only thing that kind of feeds into that is when he has to rebel against Odin to fight Malekith on his own, even though that is exactly what got him banished in the first movie. And then there's the scene at the end when Loki, quote unquote, dies, but that's not really treated as a deterrent for why Thor shouldn't be king. It's really just like to feed into the status quo of we need Thor to be out there adventuring and fighting evil, and we can't have him stuck in Asgard like he would be if he was king. So there's just not much in this movie that provides a real running theme for Thor 2.
And look, I'm going to agree with you on that.
Yeah.
My thing is I still found Thor 2 a fucking fun movie.
Okay.
I just liked him fighting dark elves. And I felt like the relationship between Loki and Thor, especially in this movie, was a highlight. More so than we'll get into Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like this was kind of the best Hiddleston-Hemsworth chemistry.
Okay.
In terms of how this movie was written, other than the first few minutes of Infinity War.
Sure.
So that's my personal opinion on it. I agree there really isn't like a big running theme. It's just Thor's fighting enemies. But isn't Thor fighting enemies fun? Yes.
Fair. I will say there's a couple fun parts of fighting the Dark Elves. I like their little black hole grenades they have. That's neat.
Yeah, they're awesome. But I'll say in defending this is not one of my favorite MCU movies. This is still probably a bottom half MCU movie.
For sure.
However, to me, Thor the Dark World is the scale of rewatchability. If the movie is worse than Thor the Dark World, then I won't rewatch it.
Okay.
Like, Thor the Dark World is kind of the minimum being good of an MCU movie that it takes for me to rewatch an MCU movie.
Mm-hmm.
And like I feel like that's the standard, because like you said, it's bare bones. It's just Thor kicking a villain's ass.
Yeah, it's on the edge of being an episode of like He-Man.
Yeah, but also, okay, so here's one kind of negative thing I'll have against Thor: The Dark World.
Okay,
I'm gonna say Karl Urban's character, which I want to say was it Scourge? Was that his name?
Yes.
I just don't feel like he was as badass as he could have been.
Yeah, Scourge.
Maybe a bit too comedic of a portrayal.
Well, Scourge is in Ragnarok, not Thor 2.
Oh, dang it. I keep on thinking that. You know what? Then that definitely explains why I hold Ragnarok so low then. Thank God for Thor 2 existing. Okay, so no,
yeah.
That's another thing. Thor 2 then still had Heimdall, which just
Thor 2 had Heimdall.
Natural advantage to the movie. Was this also the first movie that had the recast of Fandral?
Yes.
And it was Zachary Levi in the recast, or was Zachary Levi the
Correct.
original and then Josh Dallas the new one?
Zachary Levi was meant to be in the first one, but I think he either had scheduling conflicts I think he had scheduling conflicts, and then he was hesitant to come back for the sequel. He wasn't in the first one, and then when offered to come back for the sequel, he was hesitant to do so because he saw how little the Warriors 3 got to do in the first movie, and wasn't sure how much Thranduil and the rest of the Warriors 3 and Sif would have to do in the second movie. And I guess they get a little bit more to do.
Okay, so yes, they get a little bit more to do, but also that's one of the better parts of the second movie. Sif has more of a role.
Sif is around.
And then she's gone.
Yes. And then she loses her arm in Love and Thunder.
There are...
Off screen.
And I think this is one of the things of like why I hold this movie a bit higher is because I've seen what happens when the things that basically you had to grow on and like progress plot and characters forward just disappears.
Yeah.
Thor Love and Thunder, I think, was just kind of the natural sequel to Dark World in some respects.
Mm-hmm.
Like that movie would have came better of it kept Jane Foster in, you know,
Yep.
It kept Sif and these characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say Thor Dark World was just more of what I wanted to see in Thor. Was the overarching theme there? No. But it didn't...
Mm-hmm.
It had no, like, major, like, travesties, right? Like, it gave us the Warriors 3. It gave us a great Loki and Thor thing. Did it give us a forgettable villain? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But like, Myelith... No, it wasn't Myelith. It was Malekith. Sorry, Myelith is a god in our D&D campaign.
Demon princess, but sure.
Sure. But yeah, so there was Malekith, and his giant buddy.
Scar? No.
I think it was Scar, spelled with a K.
Curse? No. Big, brute, guy, dark elf in Dark World.
If you guys know it while he's searching, just scream it straight into your phone, laptop, or wherever you're listening to this.
It's Curse. Because, like, he's the last of the cursed dark elves because he gets that, like, magic rock shoved in his wound.
Okay, so Curse then. But yeah, so you have Malekith and Curse, very easily forgettable. But, like, hey, the Frost Giants are forgettable. They're just some weird things that don't look human that exist in some other realm. That's just a normal day for Thor.
Yeah. And, you know, it's a shame. Christopher Eccleston is a great actor. Brought back New Who back in 2005. Christopher Eccleston is a great actor. This performance is not his fault. Like he is so heavily covered in thick makeup and speaking in a made-up language with a heavily sound mixed voice. So there's already a lot covering up his performance already, and that does not even go into the writing behind Malekith, which there just really isn't any.
To be honest, I never knew that this was my second favorite Doctor under all the makeup.
There we go.
That saddens me now that I couldn't tell this was more of Christopher Eccleston.
That was your boy.
I would say that was my boy, and still is my second favorite boy.
Fair.
Damn it, they really did that man dirty.
They did.
Yeah, I'm still going to stick with it. For people that hate this movie, I understand you. I really do.
Now more than ever.
I was going to say, I understand some of the issues you take with this movie. But for how simplistic and just Thor and Asgardians fight some sort of monster villain, because that's just how Norse mythology goes, that's all I ever cared about. I was going to say, it's just fun. But I will still hold our one mode of agreement. It is a bottom half MCU movie, and it still is my threshold for rewatchability. A movie has to be better than Thor Love and Thunder. Or not. God, not Love and Thunder. God,
Dark World.
We confuse so many Thor movies. Dark World. Also, the whole Jane Foster and like their romance in Asgard and the mom thing. Yeah. I had no problem with that. It was fun seeing Jane Foster in Asgard.
Okay.
It was a fun time.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, for closing thoughts on Thor 2, again, we talked about this in the first Thor movie, but again, we see that the Bifrost is not used to its full capability. We see in the first movie how it's basically a giant space cannon that can destroy a planet if it's just left on for too long. And in the flashback that we see at the start of this movie to get like all the background lore of the Dark Elves, we see the Asgardians using the Bifrost to blast down and snatch up the ether, taking their enemy's greatest weapon right out from under them. Why don't they use the Bifrost more? It's great.
Hot take
it's
theory.
Such a good strategy.
Heimdall has watched A New Hope, and he does not want to be seen like the Galactic Empire.
I wouldn't think that Heimdall's around at this point, because that during this flashback is the time of Odin's father, Bor.
Heimdall
is definitely not older than Odin.
Immortal.
They're not immortal. They're not gods. At least they're very confused over that in this franchise.
They really are.
Are they gods or not? Because Odin says in this movie that we are not gods, but then he calls Jane a mortal, so are you guys gods or not? And then he calls Thor the god of hammers, or not the god of hammers in Ragnarok. But we'll get to that.
I feel like that is a question that we should give no shits about.
Yeah, fair. But also we get to see a Chris Evans cameo. That was nice. He was probably just in Atlanta at the same time filming Winter Soldier.
True.
Yeah.
Love me some Chris Evans.
Love you some Chris Evans. And speaking of Chris Evans, Winter Soldier.
I don't have much to say about this movie other than best Captain America movie, definitely top 10 and MCU movie of all time. Sure. It is just Captain America in a spy movie, and he's a great spy.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, yeah, Natasha was in this movie, right? I was going to say, I explicitly remember her and, okay, yeah. So, Black Widow's role in this movie, great. Fury's role in this movie, great.
Awesome.
Helicarriers made me scream. They just looked epic.
Made you scream. Yeah, okay, yes.
Yeah, it was one of those things where you just take that quick shout in theaters and you're just like, yes! Robert Redford, for
amazing,
all of his not being anybody, was the most dastardly nobody that could have ever been that sort of bitch in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, Robert Redford, I feel like, gets the award for least powerful good villain in a Marvel movie.
Yes. Yeah, he's definitely up there.
And then, let's see what else. Sharon Carter.
Sharon Carter shows up.
Good choice.
Yep.
Good actress. Emily Van Camp is great.
Mm-hmm.
Why did they have to wait a decade to put her in something else and then put her in one of the worst TV shows I've ever seen?
All right.
Remains to be seen. Frank Grillo as Crossbones. Great.
Solid. Yep.
That one bald guy who's a part of Hydra. Great.
Which bald? Oh, yeah. That dude.
Yeah, that guy.
His name was. That guy who's on the boat and then gets thrown off a building and then thrown into a highway.
Honestly, just the casting and everything in this movie is great. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could be on details for like hours, but like Anthony Mackie did great. Mm-hmm. Redford, Evans, Scarlett, Jackson,
Johansson.
That's why I said Scarlett. I forgot the last name, but Grillo. Everything about this movie was good. I feel like the only thing that I could have wanted, I can't even say I wanted more of because he wasn't in that injured like superpower state. Frank Grillo wasn't for most of the movie to where he could have been Crossbones. I would have been like, I would have loved to have seen like the Crossbones suit or like fist earlier, but he just wasn't there. But yeah, I was gonna say just a great movie, and then Bucky being basically the secondary villain.
Yep.
The introduction of Bucky Barnes, I feel like, has been one of the most successful moves ever made by Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Sebastian Stan's role has basically brought together so many things. Falcon and Winter Soldier. His part even in Infinity War, just in Wakanda. The Thunderbolts movie. Whatever he's going to be in Avengers Doomsday. Like, he, like Benedict Cumberbatch, have kind of been the just kind of showing up in everything and keeping the continuity alive.
Yeah.
And he kind of proved in this movie that he was the guy to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got to give all the credit there to Sebastian Stan. Even though we saw him again briefly in the first Avenger in the 40s before Bucky became Winter Soldier. But this was his movie to shine.
Yeah. Oh, I'd say so. This is the best portrayal. Well, I don't know if best portrayal. I feel like the most badass the Winter Soldier gets in the MCU.
Yeah, I would say it's the most badass, but also, what was I going to say? The shield catch. Seeing that in the trailer before this movie came out, and then seeing it as part of the larger fight in the movie, it made me so giddy like a child.
It's great.
I was just kind of jumping up and down in my seat. I'm like, oh shit, stuff's about to go down. It was such an epic moment.
Yes. I can only imagine for you, Cole, you were one of the members of the population who knew who the Winter Soldier was when this movie was first coming out. You knew it was Bucky. Am I right?
Yes, I did know the Winter Soldier was Bucky Barnes.
Yes, for a long time in comics, you have like that rank of characters who are dead and like there's so many resurrections in comics. And for a long time, it was the Waynes, it was Uncle Ben in Spider-Man, and it was Bucky Barnes. Like, these are the characters you don't bring back to life. And then during the introduction of the Winter Soldier as a character in the comics, Bucky Barnes broke that rule. Bucky Barnes was brought back as a Winter Soldier, and they broke that rule, but it turned out great because we got a great character out of him. We got a great series of Sebastian Stan performances.
And thank God they brought him back. Now,
Going
back to our conversation on Iron Man 3 and our mention of Quantumania, the one bad moment in this movie was that we didn't get to see MODOK, even though they introduced Zola. And in some computer program, I think, is kind of where he was introduced. They went to a bunker where he was in a computer.
Yep. He was basically running Hydra after his death.
Yeah. However, to be fair, I don't think that they could have put MODOK into this movie seamlessly or in a way that would have made the movie better.
No, that would have stood out so far from this movie's style. It's a big-headed computer guy.
Yeah, I was going to say, this movie was highly grounded.
Yes.
I would say they really did not want to take, like, magic or extremely, like, science fiction technology kind of senses into how the heroes or the villains operated.
Yeah.
They wanted it hyper-realistic.
Very hyper-realistic. Very, like, Mission Impossible level technology in this movie.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they did it.
Yeah. There's a lot to the aesthetic of the movie, and so much of the espionage feel plays into, like, the larger themes of this idea of gray areas in systems of trust and authority, and that plays so much into Steve's character and his character arc throughout this movie, and like continuing his larger character arc throughout his trilogy and the Avengers movies. Like, so much of this movie and Steve's story overall is Steve needing to make difficult choices. Like, he's in this movie in particular, he's pulled between the past and the present, and he's pulled between duty and morality. When it comes to the past and present stuff, he's updated his fighting tactics and fighting style for his missions with S.H.I.E.L.D., where he was like, a soldier on the front lines running in during trench warfare. Now he is a tactical martial artist soldier. And of course, like, in the modern day, he's got his, like, pop culture list to catch up on stuff after being in the ice. And that keeps him in the present, keeps him moving forward. But he's also got Peggy that he keeps visiting, and even Peggy is lost in the past because of her Alzheimer's. And then, of course, he learns that Bucky is still alive, and that's still something keeping him locked in the past. He's constantly pulled between the past and needing to move forward with the present. And then he's pulled between duty and morality. He has to keep fighting between following orders that give him structure in a life where he feels lost and out of place after coming out of the ice, versus doing what he feels is right in, like, giving people that freedom instead of the fear that Hydra is trying to enforce. And he has to it continues that choice that he is presented with by Stanley Tucci in the first Avenger, where he has to keep choosing between being the good man or the perfect soldier.
Yeah, I definitely think there was a good kind of morality versus duty theme in this.
Yeah.
I got to go, though, to one thing I just kind of forgot about, even though I mentioned Emily Van Camp and Sharon Carter. Part of the reason that again, I'm going so far ahead. But Cap has an ending in Avengers Endgame, for all who don't know about it. I think that he had a better ending in this movie, with the possibility of Sharon Carter.
Really?
I think that Sharon Carter was the better option. That is my MCU hot take for the episode. If I haven't already had one. If I have, put that in the comments.
You would have preferred him to end up with Sharon Carter.
Yes, because like you were saying,
instead of Peggy.
This entire thing was basically forcing him to reckon with, this is my world now, getting settled in the present.
Okay.
And it just made so much more sense for him to basically have just kind of a loving moment left with Peggy. She dies, and then I somehow, through matter of S.H.I.E.L.D. or random luck, mostly S.H.I.E.L.D., that I become involved with Sharon Carter, she's here. This is my life now.
Mm. Yeah, I can see that.
So I definitely think that Sharon should have been the option. And this is because I've seen what happens in hindsight. I've seen what happens to both of their characters, and it makes me want to break something. Both of those endings are so far worse than the two of them just being together. Well, I won't say Cap's ending is worse. Sharon's is.
Sure. Yeah, if this requires more of a look at the wider MCU outside of Phase 2, but if Steve's story, I think, to your point of like him needing to move forward with the present rather than staying stuck in the past, I think there's definitely a way you could have taken Steve's wider story throughout the MCU in a direction where that would have felt satisfying. Like if Steve's overall arc was letting go of what's lost and recognizing what you could have in the future or the present in the now, I think that definitely could have been a satisfying character arc. Obviously, the direction they went with it more throughout the course of Cap's appearance in the MCU in the first 3 phases and eventually ending up back with Peggy after time traveling back is obviously like more of this idea that Steve had that life stolen from him, so getting his chance to get back with Peggy is him reclaiming what was taken from him, kind of thing.
I could see that, but I feel like
I'm not saying your interpretation is wrong. I just feel like it's the decision they went with, right?
Yeah, and I just disagree with that decision. I feel like the entirety of the present day movies was basically putting him towards this idea of I am Captain America, but not for this America kind of thing. Like you see, like you see that with that duty versus morality thing that you were mentioning in this movie. Yeah. You'll see it go.
You know what? That makes sense.
I would say you'll see it go further in Civil War. It makes sense when you see within the next few years why he gives up the shield, but him coming to grips with that does not make sense that he would then travel back to his America.
Yeah.
And just kind of give up being Captain America. It makes sense that if he was giving up being Captain America, it's because he had come to grips surviving in the new world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my thing, is I feel like there's a beginning of an emotional arc for Steve that basically shatters in two once it's fully resolved.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a build in Winter Soldier that starts out extremely well that just isn't satisfied in the end because you get things that don't make sense. I would say you get him going back to the past, which you thought he'd abandoned because he abandoned Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that just never clicked. I was like, if you're going back to the past, why not just be Captain America?
Right.
Especially when they've kind of said at this point, removing the Infinity Stones. We'll get later into what removing the Infinity Stones from timelines does.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like without going into the multiverse, the ending for Steve should have been settling down in the present day and passing it.
I can see that.
To a Captain America who represents the present day while still being around. It also would have given more justification, I think, in Falcon and Winter Soldier and Brave New World as we go farther into that. So I know that's not really a Winter Soldier discussion, but
sure.
I think,
but I can see what you're saying.
That is, yeah. I was gonna say, this is why Winter Soldier is kind of the peak Captain America movie for me, and then I just don't think the payoff or like the build is ever effective enough as it should be as you go further.
It doesn't get better than this for you.
Yeah, it doesn't get better than this.
I never thought about that, but what you're saying makes sense. Like, it would make sense if we're looking at Cap's character as him growing further, moving further and further away from the patriot he starts out as and moving into the perfect soldier that he starts off as and more of the good man that he should be. It would make sense that he would keep moving forward rather than returning to the past, especially if like so much of his story starts in World War II, where there was so much bravado and propaganda, pro-America sentiment and Uncle Sam and all that, and like this idealized version of the golden generation and all that. And then as you get into Winter Soldier, he's moving away from that, and eventually in Civil War, he completely departs from it. Yeah, it would make sense if he if Steve's arc led completely to abandoning it entirely and moving forward with the future rather than returning to the past where that was so clouded in idealism that he now sees isn't real.
Yeah, I think...
I never thought about it that way.
I think overall, just kind of a final comment on this movie. I feel like this was the peak of story service.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean, this was the peak of trying to craft a long, engaging story that made sense over just kind of fan service.
Sure.
I feel like with a few notable exceptions going to until Endgame, there's most of the time a lot of fan service that's going to be done in the movies and not as well crafted stories. And I feel like part of the reason that this movie stands out is because it's just a very well thought out and crafted story. And that process really isn't continued as much as I'd want it to. And I'll kind of leave this as the audience to guess. This movie was directed by Joe and Anthony Russo. It is the first of 4 movies that they have directed for the MCU.
Yep. Until we get to Doomsday.
To leave you guys with a guessing game, you already know my opinion on this movie. I only like one more movie out of the Russo's catalog of 4. So I will leave you as the guessing game to decide what one of the other 3 movies they've directed that I actually happen to be a fan of.
We will need to save a chunk of time for that in the next episode of this series of ours. But moving on to last few points for this movie. A lot of great imagery that feeds into Steve's story of dropping the shield out of the helicarrier when he chooses to fight for Bucky instead of for his country. We see it in like the blood-stained red, white, and blue on his uniform when he's fighting Bucky in the helicarrier. You mentioned Sam's character. Yeah, another great performance. I think, like we said, Bucky's performance, Bucky's characterization in this movie is the strongest, possibly the strongest throughout his time in the MCU. I think the same for Sam's character here. He really plays a strong part in having his own place in the world as he welcomes veterans back into their normal life and helps them back into their normal life, and that plays so well into Steve's story of trying to find a normal life. And then some miscellaneous points of, you mentioned the Russo brothers, and I honestly feel like, God, they had to say what you will about the Russo brothers overall, or their overall films, whether you like them or not. They've got some of the best action in the MCU. Some of the best action in the MCU comes from the Russo films. It's like we said earlier, it's cool to see Steve go from the frontline World War soldier to a real covert ops secret agent. I love that Nick Fury's car can fly, even though it's broken in that chase scene. The Steve and Bucky fight under the highway is, of course, amazing. And I feel like the best fluidity in the action of this movie is when Steve is fleeing the Triskelion after he has the elevator fight, and he takes down a fucking Quinjet all by himself. Like, how fluid and how clever it is. Steve sets up the scenario by taking out the rotor with his shield. Then he uses the velocity of his bike by hitting the brakes to sling him on top of the jet. He then takes it out piece by piece before using the velocity of the crashing ship to escape the crash. It's fluid. It's beautiful. You can see and follow every moment of it. And there are quick cuts throughout both that moment and the rest of the action in this, but the quick cuts only feed into the speed and velocity and the hectic energy of the moment, and they never hide what's happening. I love the action in the Russo movies.
This really just was a Mission Impossible movie, just Marvel edition.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then my last point for this movie, every reference to Nick Fury's ruined eye in this movie is made less badass by Captain Marvel.
Wrong.
No, I'm right.
I will not let you attack one of the greatest things about that Captain Marvel movie. There are many things that we can talk about later. That cat is one of them.
I will attack one of the worst things.
That cat is one of the best.
It's a flurkin, and it's terrible.
How dare you attack my cat?
Well, we can get on to more alien discussion with our discussion of the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Like we said, so many of these movies in Phase 2 have what you can really pick out what this movie is about. And to me, Guardians, this first Guardians movie, is all about this main cast of Guardians. They're all running from something until they find something to stick around for. As we learn more and more about their backstories of the Guardians, we learn all of them are running from something. Peter is running from Earth and the loss of his mother. Rocket is running from his trauma that we later find out is from the High Evolutionary. Gamora is running from an abusive parent. Drax is running from the loss of his family by distracting himself and pursuing Ronan. They're all running from something, except Groot. He's okay. Until he dies.
Groot is Groot.
Groot is Groot. Does that... Side point, does it annoy you like it annoys me whenever he says something other than, I am Groot? It's not a language barrier. It's just it's a physical limitation of how he speaks. He can only say, I am Groot, but I guess that's just me. Everybody else finds it touching on the internet.
I'm sorry, he cannot just say, I am Groot. You forget. I'm pretty sure he said at one point, we are Groot.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It annoys me when he says anything outside of I am Groot. He says, we are Groot at the end of this movie, and he says, I love you guys at the end of Guardians 3. But it's it's set up as a physical limitation of how his people are able to speak. Like, it's not a language thing. It's just how he speaks.
I don't have a problem. How dare you for attacking our cute little tree baby?
That's the next movie.
It doesn't matter. I was going to say him as a 8-9 foot tall tree baby still counts.
That's fair.
And he is cute.
Yeah, fair.
So is the raccoon.
Also true. Played by Sean Gunn. Mocapped by Sean Gunn for the motion capture performance.
So voiced by Bradley Cooper.
Yep.
And then motion capture by Sean Gunn. Nice.
Yep.
I honestly forgot that Guardians was in Phase 2. This may be the single challenger to Winter Soldier at the top of the list. Fucking love this Guardians movie.
Yep.
I also just love Lee Pace as the villain.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I don't think that Ronan was a very deep and complex villain.
Right.
I feel like he was just kind of simple warmonger in space.
Agreed.
It was just made better because it was Lee Pace.
Lee Pace is an awesome actor.
Lee Pace out-acted the script and the character.
Sure. Lee Pace is an awesome actor, and I can agree with that point of he does so much with so little character in this movie in terms of his performance. But I will say Ronan's makeup throughout this movie does make him look like he's pouting the whole time. Like he's got that bottom lip poking out.
Man, he's a blue person. You can't think that blue people would just be blue.
Abadi.
But yeah, so I think that with so little, Lee Pace still did really well.
Yeah.
I liked this, I guess, being, I would say, the first explicit scene of a Power Stone, of the
Yes.
Power Stone, or just an Infinity Stone in general being used. We've seen 3 other ones up to this point, just we don't know that they're Infinity Stones yet.
Right.
So I feel like that's kind of just a big story moment in the MCU. It's very clearly at the end of this movie, oh, this is a small little stone.
Yeah.
That has basically been the plot device.
Right. We definitely know that looking back at Thor 2, this is at the point, Phase 2 is really at the point where the people behind the scenes knew that these MacGuffins are going to be revealed as Infinity Stones, because we get the Collector in that post-credit scene in Thor 2 where where they turn over the Aether to him and he's like, 1 down, 5 to go, whatever.
Yeah, so I'm we definitely know, but the first actually looking like a little rock was in this.
Yeah. Also, 0 protection around it. It's just on an open, dead planet.
I mean, yes, but did I really care when watching that opening? No. Was I more obsessed with his dance moves? Yes.
Fair.
This movie was the bright spot to me of Marvel being funny.
Yeah.
This was just the perfect action comedy for Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
And just absolute bangers on the soundtrack. I have the soundtrack on an iPod, and I used to listen to it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Escape, one of my favorite songs. Most people know that as the Pina Colada song. Hooked on the Feeling. I can just kind of march around my living room to that song.
Mm-hmm.
Just so many good bangers.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think
I
of. They did kind of have a classic D&D setup that I kind of enjoyed too.
True.
Is that they really weren't a group and kind of all had that, oh no, we're on the same little islands.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, not island. It was almost like a mining colony, like Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah. Everybody has their session zeros where Peter's going to get the stone and Gamora's getting orders from Ronan. And then their session 1 is on Xandar when they all get arrested together because they're all after the single MacGuffin.
I would say you're
and
right.
Then Drax's player gets brought in later.
I totally forgot that the session 1 was on Xandar and not on Nowhere, because I kind of just remember Drax going crazy, seeing Ronan and trying to attack him. Nowhere was the thing that looked like a mining colony. No.
Yes.
So, okay. I also had a problem with Xandar though, and this is just me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was growing up, family of, my dad cosplayed.
Yep.
Nova was a huge thing.
Sure.
Not seeing an actual Nova Corpsman with the helmet on and the power frustrated the ever-living shit out of me.
Fair. Yeah, we're never getting a singular Nova character ever in this MCU. Not gonna happen.
And we've gotten so many opportunities because the Nova Corps has shown up more than this movie.
Well, fucking Thanos blew up Xandar to get the Power Stone ahead of Infinity War. So they're gone.
Well, that's why we leave room for the singular Nova now that just wasn't on Xandar.
I guess so.
But, yeah. Also, the whole usual suspects kind of lineup on the conveyor belt on Xandar, just fucking awesome. Like, that's one of just the best stills that you can ever take for the MCU. Is that Guardian? That Guardian still is just so well perfected as a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the casting of everything was great.
Yeah,
I really can't think of any like lows to this movie, other than we're not gonna get Nova.
Yeah,
but I think this one's just high up for me because of how comedic it was, and the comedy made sense. I guess it was the biggest thing. It didn't feel out of place. The entire movie kept that vibe, but when it needed to get serious, it could get serious, and it just was seamless in the transition.
Yeah, it's almost a weird setup too, because Peter Quill is the jester or the comedic relief in a team of straight men. Like, everybody else is the straight man to Peter Quill. Which I guess makes sense because, like, so much of Peter's character is, like, comedy and music and escapism is a defense mechanism for his trauma. But, like, I guess there are times when they're each of them are straight men to each other because, like, have to see Quill reacting to Drax's overall literalism because his people don't use metaphors and whatever. I guess they're all sort of like straight men to each other at different times.
Yeah, I was going to say each of them was the comedic relief at some point.
Yeah.
But I feel like Peter was because of traditional humor. Drax and Gamora were because of basically dry humor or like situational humor.
Mm-hmm.
Groot was just funny because he's Groot.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rocket was kind of the bombastic one where it's just like, hey, we're just being normal, good, fun superhero group time. And then Rocket will say some crazy shit, mostly about stealing prosthetic limbs.
Yeah.
He had the most recognizable bit that went through all of those movies, and it was stealing prosthetic limbs. And honestly, I can't blame him for wanting to do it.
Yeah. Well, any other finishing points that you have for Guardians?
Not really. I will say that Guardians is probably my favorite series
okay.
of the entire MCU. There is one movie that I think is a low point, but even for where it is in terms of a low point, the entire trilogy as a whole, I think, is just the best collection of movies that the MCU can offer.
I don't think that's a bad choice.
And the first movie is, of course, a fantastic start.
Yeah, we get a big note to call out is we get Josh Brolin's first Thanos appearance in this movie. That's a big thing.
I totally forgot about that.
Notably different than how we'll see him in Infinity War, where he's much more calm and collected and slow to anger. Here he's like much more theatrical, telling Ronan he'll bathe the starways in your blood if you betray me kind of shit.
I also felt like he had more of a chin in this movie. I may be totally wrong, but I feel like the Thanos chin was just much more defined.
Agreed. Another interesting note, I found this neat. The first time we see Nebula fight Gamora, she wins. She blows up on nowhere. She blows up Gamora's ship. Though it where we see Nebula's character go in the later appearances, it kind of fits her character that we kind of see that she doesn't feel happy about it. She doesn't really have any reaction when she blows up Gamora's ship. She just kind of null and blank-faced.
No reaction at all?
It's like we don't see any satisfaction on her face. And I think that kind of fits what we know about Nebula in the later movies. I don't know if that was intentional. I don't know if like James Gunn gave Kieran Gillen that direction, like, hey, just don't feel anything, or like your sister just died in front of you and you did it. I don't know what kind of direction they gave for that, or if it was unintentional, but it kind of fits.
It does really fit with the competitive but also torturous nature that we'll learn about.
Yeah. But those are the biggest points that I had for Guardians, and unless we have anything else to discuss, we can move on to our Avengers movie for this run, for this phase, that being Ultron, Age of Ultron. Opening thoughts, Cole?
It gets better every time you watch it.
Oh, really? Do you think so?
However, it's still not great.
Okay. What is better and what don't you like about it?
I honestly think that kind of the Tony, like PTSD continuation story that should have really got resolved better in Iron Man 3.
Sure.
Just makes a lot more sense in this movie, more and more that I watch it. Ultron's reasons for wanting to basically destroy large portions of the world make sense. So I feel like just the villain's well written. This movie also ruins. It didn't ruin anything. It just gave me hope for one of the best romantic ships in the MCU. And then,
can I guess what you're talking about?
Oh yeah, you know what it is.
Is it Vision and Wanda?
Oh hell no.
Is it Natasha and Bruce?
100% it's Natasha and Bruce. They ripped that away from us, and I will never forgive Kevin Feige.
Yeah. It's weird that it's only in this movie.
But it works so well.
I'm not opposed to it.
It pisses me off that we never got more. Well, we got that little bit of the video with what we see happens to Hulk, and then how that will come back in our next episode, and also Thor Ragnarok. But again, they really just hated us.
Yeah, I think Natasha describes it the best herself in that the scene where they're all at the party in Stark Tower or Avengers Tower. And she's like, she spends so much of her life surrounded by great fighters and people who are good at killing and good at violence, but she kind of falls for the guy who runs from the fight because he'll know he'll win. That's a really interesting reason for Natasha to fall in love with somebody.
But it's a great reason. And again, they hated their audience.
Yeah, I can see why you'd like that story. I kind of like the subplot too.
It was a great subplot. I think one of the other things too that I like about this movie is that when I go back and what I mean when it gets better, the character development I feel like is better. The scenes where they're not in the action, I feel like, in my honest opinion, could be better than the first movie.
Okay.
Kind of in the initial first watches of it when I was a kid, I was like, oh, it's the action of destroying the robots, the big snow forest action scene in the very beginning.
Yeah.
But now looking back on it, I'm like, the party scene at the beginning is a huge highlight of the movie.
The fucking lift the hammer scene.
Yeah, I was going to say the lift the hammer scene, and then when Vision just does it later.
Right.
Paul Bettany finally getting a body to do things in for this movie. Fantastic.
Very welcome here. Yep.
So glad it's Paul Bettany. Thank God for making Jarvis something physical. But yeah, I just feel like all the scenes that don't revolve around action are the things that bring me back to this movie.
I can see that. Yeah.
Now, I will say it's still not super high up in my list of MCU movies. I would say it's probably right around the middle, maybe sometimes depending on the day, going into the upper half.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I feel like the action in this movie just doesn't hit the same highs that the first Avengers movie gave us.
Yeah, it does have great action with the Hulkbuster scene.
So the Hulkbuster is a highlight.
Yeah.
I just don't think that like the fights in Sokovia, like the third act was good for an Avengers movie, and it was action.
Sure.
And like it hit the points it needed to hit.
Mm-hmm.
But we had gotten, a better third act from the first Avengers movie, like 3 years beforehand.
Yeah, agreed.
So I feel like kind of the third act, when things get serious, is kind of where the movie, I won't say it lets itself go. Just it's good and serves the movie without being anything great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Battle of New York in the first Avengers movie definitely does a better job, and I guess it does benefit from having a slightly smaller cast of Avengers by 3 characters. But it does do a better job at showing how each Avenger is important in the fight. Like Cap is leading the civilians and giving orders. Natasha is moving around and being able to stick close to the Chitauri. Hulk is smashing. Tony is moving around the fastest. Hawkeye is keeping an eye on things from above. Everybody plays an important part, and like there's a little bit of that in the Sokovia battle, but like where it's still cool, but it falls short of that is exemplified well in that scene where they're all protecting the trigger, and it's after that moment of, is that the best you can do? And all of the Ultron bots swarm in, and there's like some element of Vision using his intangibility to pull the parts out, and of Clint using special arrows and stuff like that. But otherwise, there's just lots of flipping and kicking, and like there's one point where Clint punches an arrowhead into the head of an Ultron bot, which is kind of cool, but that's not your thing.
Yeah, like that big scene when they're all surrounded basically in the little outdoor gazebo where
the church, yeah,
Ultron had decided to centralize everything. It was kind of the highlight of the Sokovia fight. But then again, like just the way it basically all circled, it almost felt like a retread.
Sure.
Of the New York fight, and you're like, wish there could be something different.
We're not getting any new cool explorations of their powers.
Yeah, another thing that just pissed me off, and this was more of a bigger Marvel thing than it was specifically this movie. Pietro, just the fact that Quicksilver dies, like he didn't have to die. If only you'd bought Fox sooner. It makes me so mad. I'm like, Quicksilver is one of the coolest characters from just the X-Men line of characters, and you just had to get rid of him because, you couldn't call him Quicksilver.
Soon to be replaced by Evan Peters in the MCU. Weirdly.
Don't get me started on being replaced with Evan Peters.
I know.
You saw WandaVision. You know where this goes.
We know where that goes. God, we desperately needed an episode on the shows to talk about that more in depth.
We're gonna have to do one that will probably lead up to Secret Wars.
I have thoughts on Evan Peters in the MCU.
Yes, but either way, Quicksilver's death was a huge, it made me mad thing. But again, I can't really blame the plot of the movie other than just including Scarlet Witch and Pietro in general. That would have solved the problem of not having to kill Quicksilver. But also, you were introducing Ultron and Vision anyways. Like, you would have had to introduce Scarlet Witch at some point.
Right.
So, I mean, I think we got better things out of having them in this movie than we did not having them at all.
Sure.
So, more of a plus than a negative. I honestly don't remember, like, anything big with Steve or, like, Thor in this movie. Other than, like, the lifting scene that they had.
Right.
I would say Tony kind of had his oh no, I realized what I did. I created a mass murderer as a robot.
One slightly big thing that we get from Thor is when Ultron is securing the vibranium, and Wanda gives everybody the illusions, all of those visions, whatever. We get a very inaccurate sneak peek of Ragnarok when Thor has his vision of the blind Heimdall and the crazy party that's going on in Asgard, and the blind Heimdall grabbing Thor and telling him, like, you send us all to hell, whatever. Yeah, that didn't turn out the way that we thought it would.
Not at all.
And I thought it was pretty cool. Like, a horror Thor movie could have been neat.
Could have been really good.
Could have. Gothic horror in Thor.
Yeah. I don't think I have really any other big thoughts on this movie.
Yeah.
I think as a whole, this movie was almost the inverse of the first Avengers movie.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, I would say, energy.
Sure.
I want to say the first Avengers movie starts out kind of low energy at the beginning, and then it constantly is picking up energy, kind of snowballing into a huge amount by the time you hit the Battle of New York.
Right.
This movie in Age of Ultron, I feel like, is the opposite. I feel like all of the best parts of Age of Ultron come within the first hour of the movie, and then it basically just kind of goes downhill in energy from there. Again, this is not a bad MCU movie. Just, it's not one of the best either. It's one of those just middle of the road. It's good. You can rewatch it, and that's just kind of where it is.
Yeah, fair. I do kind of agree that some of the best parts come not in the action moments. Before we move on from Avengers, I just want to point out more of, like, you talked about how Tony's PTSD stuff from Iron Man 3 carries over so heavily in here. I think probably arguably in a bigger showing than it does in Iron Man 3.
Definitely.
But I think, yeah, on a wider sense, like, Tony is obviously at the head of it, creating Ultron in this movie. But I think everybody in this movie, not just Tony, are picturing what the world would look like without the Avengers. Everybody, not just Tony. Steve misses the chance he had with Peggy. Clint has his family that he wants to return to. Natasha wants to start a life with Bruce. Thor has his vision from Wanda telling him that he's a destroyer and he's going to send his friends to hell, and he wants to step away from that world so he doesn't lose control of his power. And then Bruce is always wishing that he wasn't who he is. So there's, like, so much in this movie about every Avenger of the main six cast are in one way or another picturing what life would be like without the Avengers. It's just Tony who is the one who acts on it. But I think at the end of it, I think the final conversation between Vision and Ultron, that sort of last Ultron bot, encapsulates well the big idea behind the movie. That being, like, people like the Avengers are flawed, but we don't bring an end to them because of those flaws. We work through the flaws and mistakes, and we let them continue through because of their successes. And they have the Avengers. The Avengers have their problems, but because the Avengers aren't a problem because Tony fears failing the team, or because Natasha is made to be a killer. They are heroes because they're more than their lowest moments. I will say, though, I like that theme overall. I feel like it's not the best accomplished or best realized in this movie, because I feel like so much of the death and problems that come about in this movie come from a single mistake by Tony in bringing Ultron to life.
But with good intentions.
With good intentions, to be sure. And I feel like that leads us into needing to sing the praises of James Spader as Ultron. Is he in any way like what he is in the comics? God, no. This is unrecognizable from Ultron in the comics.
It doesn't matter. It's James Spader.
It's James Spader. There's never a bad time to sing his praises. James Spader is so far off from what we know in the comics of Ultron, but he's great. He's fun, he's charismatic, he's enthralling, he is
Evil?
Everything good about James Spader. He's evil, as the real James Spader is. Maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say Ultron just sounds evil. The real James Spader just seems to be the kindest person of all time. But he just likes to play evil or just questionable morality characters.
Absolutely.
This is my plug for more James Spader. He's the villain in Pretty in Pink. He has a terrible 90s like crime movie called Jack is Back. I think it's about Jack the Ripper.
Oh, cool.
He has The Blacklist, the show. Great show. Yep. He has Boston Legal.
Yep.
Where he's Alan Shore. Fantastic show.
Mm-hmm.
He's just
in the
great.
For a little bit.
He is in The Office for a bit. And then also, the big plug that we need to make, Vision Quest. The man's returning.
I guess it's coming.
If you guys haven't seen, he's returning for Vision Quest. This is our payoff for such an excellent role in this movie. If anybody else was Ultron, this movie would have failed.
That's not unfair. But I will say, like, in addition to the points of Ultron, the effects on Ultron are phenomenal. Not only does he feel like he's really in the scene, he feels so physical, catching the light in just the right ways, like a metal man would. But he never feels like a machine. Like when he watches Pietro tell him the story of how they lost their parents, he feels like he's watching them. He feels like Ultron's watching them. He feels like he's listening to them. There's something between the performance capture from James Spader and the visual effects that just capture the intent so nicely.
You got that right. I think the only weird thing is, even though Ultron looked great, it was weird between comics and live action, seeing Ultron with a mouth.
Yes. Ultron usually just has like the hanging open sort of gap in his face.
But I forgive it. It's James Spader. I can forgive many things for the fact that it's just James Spader.
As you should. But moving on from a big world-ending calamity story that will go on to shape so much of the MCU moving forward, we have Ant-Man, which is comparably on a smaller scale. Like, Ant-Man is a heist movie.
A great heist movie.
It's a great heist movie. It is such a fun movie. I feel like the stakes they assign to it, where like they're trying to keep the Pym particle from being sold to Hydra and it's being sold to the highest bidder and whatever. It's weird that they point out like, hey, Hank Pym, these are our buyers for the Pym particle. They're Hydra. Don't worry, they're actually fine. But like they make the Pym particle saving the Pym particle from being sold to the highest bidder like Hydra. Like, this is a world-ending thing. If we lose the Pym particle to Hydra, then the world is going to end. I feel like do you really need that sense of scale to this? Can it just be like a localized heist movie? I don't know. Maybe that's a weird complaint. Weird nitpick.
I feel like it felt okay.
Sure. Yeah, it doesn't take away from it, I guess.
To connect to the Hydra, it doesn't take away from it. Especially when you have Age of Ultron and Winter Soldier and Iron Man 3 all before this. Like, this is kind of Hydra's phase. This is MCU phase Hydra. Because even though Iron Man 3 focused more on AIM and Hydra basically worked together in the comics. I was going to say AIM was basically the science division, it seemed like, of Hydra, even though they were separate entities. Like, if you went in without very explicit knowledge of either group, it would just seem like AIM's Hydra's science division.
Even though Hydra was the science division of the Third Reich.
Yes. But you really just thought that AIM did more science.
Yeah, right.
But this really was just that phase. So I feel like connecting it did not take away from the movie at all. I feel like it was just one of those things of, hey, you want to connect it to one of these two groups?
Sure.
And they chose Hydra because they'd probably been in more movies.
Oh, yeah. AIM is around for a singular movie.
And they didn't even do AIM right.
Not really. But yeah, how do you feel about... I had topsy-turvy feelings on this before rewatching this movie for this podcast. How do you feel about choosing Scott Lang as our first real active Ant-Man in the MCU versus just making it Hank Pym?
I feel good because So the previous Avengers movie where they fought the Chitauri, Ant-Man and the Wasp are a part of the Avengers, the animated movie. I think it's Ultimate Avengers. In that,
yes,
it wasn't explicit, but there were hints that Hank Pym was an abusive piece of shit.
Right.
I'm glad that we did not have to deal with the fact that Hank Pym is an abusive piece of shit.
Yeah, there's definitely, like, you can see his mental instability, and they talk about it like, overuse of the Pym particle over several decades deteriorated his mind. And we kind of see that even in we kind of get a hint almost at it, that the mental deterioration has, like, passed down maybe genetically to Hope. In, like, we see that scene where during, like, the training montage of Scott, where he's trying and failing to use the earpiece to communicate with the ants, and Hope picks it up and, like, starts controlling the ants like it's no problem, but her control over the ants leads them to, like, crawl up the walls and start darkening the light fixture in the room. You kind of get that sense that sort of trauma or mental deterioration has passed on to Hope, and that's why she's not taking on the reins of Ant Woman in this case. So yes, they definitely don't touch on the abusive aspect of Hank Pym from the character in the comics, and they definitely just hang on like, oh, he's not mentally capable of it anymore.
Which I'm glad they did.
That's the better choice, yeah.
I would say Michael Pena's kind of...
Yes,
Luis's, like, flashbacks. I don't even want to call them flashbacks, but I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy.
Fantastic. Classic. Instantly iconic.
Funniest fucking things. You're right. Instantly iconic.
Mm-hmm.
I think Darren Cross was kind of a...
Yeah.
Not really memorable. Like, the suit. No. The Yellow Jacket suit, I think, is memorable.
Yeah.
The design.
It's a cool suit.
The suit was nice. I will say that this has one of, to me, the most memorable fights in the final fight in the bedroom.
All the shrinking down stuff, very creative.
Yeah, I would say extremely creative, extremely stylized.
Yeah, the final action is great. Like, even the first bit of shrinking down, that perspective we get from that miniature Ant-Man scale is great. Like when Scott falls into the tub after accidentally using the suit, and Luis turns on the bath, and all the water floods towards him like a dam breaking, and you can feel the weight and size of the water from Scott's perspective. And then like flipping the trains and all that in the final fight with Yellow Jacket. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I feel like this was the first movie kind of where the CGI was very important to making the overall feel of the movie important.
Okay.
And, like, the CGI and whatever practical effects were used. I will say this now, I don't know what practical effects they used to do, like, the small Scott big things. I assume a lot of that was CGI.
Probably.
But, like, the sense of him being super small around these rooms and, you know, being able to convincingly see on screen him throwing these things, or, like, the fights on those small, super small scales, and then back in, like, normal human scale. Just, that was, I think, a tough job to do. Yeah. And the fact that it was so seamless between basically size scales was definitely a highlight.
For sure.
I think, I will say, at least in this first one, I wasn't super sold on the actress who played Hope. I had never seen Lost before. And I don't know. She grows on me throughout the other movies, but I think she being almost as cold as Michael Douglas's character wasn't what I expected going into the movie. Knowing that, you know, Wasp could be in it. Yeah. I will say Michael Douglas just being Michael Douglas, great.
Yeah, fantastic. Never a disappointment.
Yeah. I will say the Avengers heist in the suit, kind of not memorable to me.
Kind of nothing.
I know when I'll see it, I'll be like, oh yeah, great time. And I enjoyed it. It's just not super memorable.
I can agree with that. And, like, I find it funny when we see like the end of Age of Ultron, and Avengers Campus is stocked full of employees and staff members, and this really feels like the Avengers is growing into a real organization that's going to be like it's almost like the new Shield essentially. And then we never see another staff member who's not a main cast Avenger for the rest of the MCU ever again.
Exactly.
Yeah. But the Sam cameo is fun.
The Sam cameo is fun. But yeah, I think this is just a great heist movie with a very unique third act fight that goes down as very memorable for me. And now that I am looking it up, there are two other things I want to mention. One, the worst post-credit scene in any Marvel movie ever. This movie. I was going to say, it's just a scene from Civil War.
Yep.
Like, show me something cool that's not just going to pop back up in another movie. I want like an extra 30 seconds of something original. We did get the mid-credit scene, which was the Wasp prototype.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. And then we stay an extra 5 minutes to see through all the end credits, and then get this.
We get a trailer for the next movie,
and then get this trailer bullshit.
Yeah.
And then two, one of the best open threads that I've gotten at the end of a Marvel movie was when he hits the quantum realm, and then is able to giant himself back out of it. But then in the end, he's like, "I was down in the quantum realm."
Yeah.
Maybe there's something there. And it takes us another... It doesn't come up immediately in the next movie. No. It takes us like another 10 years. I think it is 8 years at least. But it takes us 8 years to get to something that you teased in the first movie. When you could have just given it to us the next movie.
Yeah. Didn't really get much from it when we got it, actually.
I know. I was going to say, I love that the string is left there. It made me so happy of what fun things can happen in the quantum realm.
Like time travel.
And then they just left it to die. Well, yeah, time travels. Yeah, I forgot. Time travel is the thing that shows up in Endgame. But I was looking for cooler stuff, like the stuff that happens in Quantumania.
But cooler.
But we did need cooler.
Yeah, fair.
So, any last thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, like Evangeline Lilly as Wasp, I think does get better over time as the movies go on. I think she's good here, and I think it would have been fun to dive more into it. Like, does she have a dark side? Did she inherit a dark side from Hank? Kind of thing, because like my own sort of headcanon that isn't explained in the movies, but it's just down to my interpretation, is like Hank Pym invents the Pym particle and becomes Ant-Man prior to meeting Janet. They get together, they have a kid when Hank has already had this beginning of the mental deterioration from using the Pym particle. And that's what leads into that sort of like little sneak peek at what might have been there in Hope when she darkens the room. But they never really bring that back in any sort of way with Hope's character, so maybe there was a thought of it and they never brought it back. Or maybe I'm just reading into it too much. Who knows? But I think the performance that we have to focus at least some on is Paul Rudd as Scott Lang. Paul Rudd, always great. Never disappointing.
Like James Spader, Paul Rudd is Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd is Paul Rudd. Yeah, Scott's story is obviously about proving that your life isn't over after making a single mistake. Kind of coming well off of Ultron, the theme of Ultron. But your life isn't over after making a single mistake, and it shows how shitty circumstances can lead towards forcing you to make those mistakes again. And this movie gives a really realistic and respectful depiction of how hard it is to return to a normal life after getting out of prison, because Baskin-Robbins always knows. And all of that desire for Scott to get back to a normal life, not just for himself, but for Cassie, is really nice. It's a pretty simple story, but it's a nice story. And Paul Rudd is so lovable that he's the perfect choice to have such a nice motivation. And then we see that same motivation in, spread to other parts of his character, because Scott is able to connect with Hank and Hope through their daughter-father relationship because of his own daughter-father relationship. And it really highlights why choosing Scott Lang instead of Hank Pym for the first MCU active Ant-Man was the right choice. So, yeah.
I will agree with you there. I guess my last thought on this movie, Kat, do you know who the original director of Ant-Man was supposed to be?
Edgar Wright.
Was supposed to be Edgar Wright. That of Scott Pilgrim fame and the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy.
Yes, indeed.
3 of my favorite comedy movies of all time.
Oh, yeah. What a trip that would have been.
I really would have loved to have seen what Edgar Wright could have done with the Ant-Man movie.
I think Edgar Wright would have liked us to see it too, and we never will.
That's one of my Elseworld kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should give Edgar Wright an animated What If episode.
Mm-hmm.
And just title it What If Edgar Wright Directed Ant-Man.
Edgar Wright's never done animation. I wonder what he'd do with that.
Just give him the opportunity, please.
Let him play.
Just let him cook.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I have to say about Ant-Man. I was going to say next time, since we are done with Phase 2, we will be going on to Phase 3, Part 1, because there are 11 movies.
There's a lot to it.
I will say, so far, Cad and I will give our rankings here in a second, but Phase 3 is really where Cad and I start to diverge.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
If you remember, I want to say that we had a pretty fair different mix for the first one, but it was we agreed on 1 and 2, we agreed on 3 and 4, we agreed on 5 and 6. We agreed on the pairs, but we had a few of them switched within that pair. But for the most part, we agreed on tiers.
Mm-hmm.
This one, I want to say we'll agree on for quite a few of them.
Okay.
But Phase 3, from conversations that we've had since high school,
yes,
you're going to see some big debates and maybe some very angry hosts.
We'll have to lower our microphone gain significantly as we scream at each other.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say 10% because 90% of what we're doing is screaming.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess for final rankings, I'll go first. At the bottom, I will definitely have to go with Iron Man 3.
Okay.
I think following that up, I'm going to have to go with Thor the Dark World.
Mm-hmm.
Followed by Age of Ultron.
Mm-hmm.
Followed by Ant-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Oof. And then Winter Soldier and Guardians.
Mm-hmm. Guardians takes your top.
No, I honestly don't know. For today,
it will vary.
For today, Winter Soldier is going to take the top, but it can vary based on the day. I think they're very interchangeable depending on what type of movie you're looking for. Winter Soldier is a bit more serious. If you just want a happy-go-lucky one, Guardians of the Galaxy all day long.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Agreed. Okay. I'll say, for me, my ranking probably Thor 2 at the bottom, followed by Iron Man 3. I just feel like Iron Man 3 isn't the strongest, but I can at least respect that it started to move in a direction of those themes of survival and PTSD and war profiteering and all that stuff. Followed.
Can you really put the MCU movie with Guy Pearce in it above what was a movie that just didn't have any glaringly bad things?
Guy Pearce isn't glaringly bad.
The entire Extremis plot was, but fair enough. Continue.
All right. So Thor 2, Iron Man 3, Thor 2 at the bottom, Iron Man 3. I would say after that, it's a toss-up. The next 2 slots and the next 2 slots after that, both are interchangeable, I think. I really more of the next 3 slots are pretty interchangeable. I'll say Thor 2, Iron Man 3, Ant-Man, and then between second and third place, I feel like Guardians and Ultron could swap back and forth. I feel like I'll return to watch Ultron more than I will watch Guardians, but I feel like Guardians is more refreshing than Age of Ultron is. So I'll say Ant-Man, Ultron, Guardians, Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier at the top.
All right, so see, audience, for the most part, with I think just
For the most part,
the bottom two sets interchangeable, we agree.
Yeah.
This will no longer be the case.
I hope you enjoyed it. It will never happen again.
Never. This is the only taste of us being cordial for our movie takes. It is war.
Mm-hmm.
And some could say, because this has been going on since high school, this could be an infinite war. War to infinity.
Over the course of infinity. With no in-game in sight.
Exactly.
Could even spell our doom. And we won't keep that a secret.
And isn't that a perfect way to end today? With Cad giving just, I don't know, the most perfect Russo brother Avengers recap. So, for now, I'm Cole Browning.
I'm Kevin MacArthur.
And this has been Unquestionably Nerdy. Good night.
Good night. Goddamn, we tried to finish quicker than last time. It did not work.